and welcome to the What's Up With That, a podcast hosted by me, as Don Brinton. Glad that you are with us today. And we are that podcast that talks about all things religious and spiritual. And as we look at those things, we like to ask the question, what's up with that? Sometimes it's food for thought. And sometimes it's just looking at how good God is. And so today we have someone with us as we engage all things spiritual, religious. And what's up with that is the kind of question that you apply when God has moved in your life, when you've been faithful and God has shown his faithfulness. And sometimes you just got to stop and ask the question, what's up with that?
What's up with that?
All right, now. So today I have a special guest with us. And he is not only a special guest for what's up with that, he's a special guest for me. It's a long-time relationship, and I have known him since he was 18 years old, coming to starting college. And before I go any further, I'm going to ask this very special person, a very special guest, if he would just introduce himself. How about introducing yourself, Erv?
Yes, sir. Well, first of all, I'd like to say it is an honor and a pleasure to even sit with you and even have a conversation.
You're blessed, man. You're blessed.
Hey, man, it's been a long time, a long road, and it's great to see what God is doing in your life. So, what's up with that? Amen. But my name is Ervin Jackson. I'm the founder and owner of Anointed Hands Barbershop. I started it when I was 18 years old. No, I take that back. I was 20 years old when I started. It came to me in a dream I had, and I had already kind of knew what direction I wanted to go. And through making those choices to follow what I believe God had given me in a dream and a vision for a barbershop where people could walk in and actually feel the presence of God and have an encounter with God. That was my focus. That was my dream for getting the shop established. And man, God has done marvelous things over the years. Just following that. Okay. Just that one thing changed in my life, and it took me on an entire different road.
Yeah, I kind of like to hit. You said it's something that you knew, and I do remember. I was on the campus of Houston-Tillotson University.
HT, go Rams.
Give it a plug, right?
Go Rams.
And it was, and we were talking a few minutes ago, and you said, I'm not sure I remember that, right?
Yes.
I remember the exact place. We talked oftentimes on campus. There were, especially in those days, student barbers.
Yes.
Who were cutting hair in the residence halls.
Yes.
Sometimes they make their way to the student union and what was the canteen.
Yes.
And maybe cut some hair. I was very familiar with that because and knew about it, but I wasn't going up there because I didn't want a student in my head, right? And it was one evening I saw you up on the hill near the chapel. And we were talking, and I'm not sure if you were dealing with some class issues, but we engaged in conversation. And finally, you said, "Well, Rev, I'm only here because I think I need the business part. I know what I want to do. All I want to do is be a barber. I want to have my own shop, and the only thing this can help me with is to know the business side of it, right?" I guess some time had passed, and during that time I was going to a place called Kings and Queens.
Yes.
To get my hair cut.
Yes.
And they stayed full, right?
All the time.
And on this particular day when I walked in, the barber that I usually go to had somebody in his chair, and you didn't have to make appointments back then. You could just walk in.
Yes.
Right? Yes. You have to make an appointment to see Mr. Erv in these days. If you don't have an appointment, you can't get in, right? Times have changed.
Indeed.
As I walked in, you were in the shop. And I remembered your words. I already know what I want to do. And because you were in a real barbershop. that for me legitimized it, right? This kid, maybe he's okay and he's worth trying.
Yes.
And so I sat in your chair, and you cut my hair, and probably for the next 15 years or so,
Yes.
You were my barber.
Amen.
But the interesting thing is that I stopped seeing you on campus, right? What happened between the time I started coming to you as a client, customer, whatever the appropriate word is, right? And the time that I saw you on the hill, and you said, "Well, I know what I want to do, and the only thing this can help me with is the business." What happened in that time?
In that time, I really think I was kind of overzealous, young and ignorant on some things, but so focused, I didn't make the main thing, and keeping up with the educational aspect, and began to indulge more in the extracurricular activities that I could find myself in Houston, Tennessee.
I never saw that part, right? So
Yes.
I was about to say,
BC.
I was about to say, now the ignorance might be kind of hard because there are some learning curves and growing pains.
Right.
Because I thought you were pretty focused. But anyway, go ahead.
Yes.
Some of those, what you do?
Well, I was hanging out with some older brothers in fraternities, and
Wow.
and doing all those things. As a freshman, I should have pulled back, but that was kind of always a dynamic in my life. I never hung around my age group or my peer group. I was always trying to be grown a little too fast, and I think that worked for my good in some areas, but it was also to my detriment in others.
Would you say I believe there's something, and that's a place where I come from, right? I think as I transition in these next few weeks, next month, there have been students on campus who have a faith. There have been students on campus who are students of faith. But even in our faithing, we gotta grow up, right? And faith does not always exempt us from living life, right? Would you say that even in that process, because sometimes we just gotta grow up, right? And whatever that means for us, and each folks' journey is different. Do you believe that God was with you as you were engaging that process? And I'm asking that question because I saw you as a young man of faith.
I believe HT was the first time I actually had my faith challenged with other philosophical views and ideas.
Okay.
And I watched some. I grew up Baptist, Methodist. We used to make the rounds when I was younger.
You lived in a small town, so.
Waco, Texas.
Okay.
And so I went to St. Paul AME, went to a Baptist church, and even had some Jehovah's Witnesses come by the house a few times. But so I had a lot of different theological settings I had sat in, or doctrinal settings I had sat in, but they were actually challenged. I had a teacher. I'm not going to mention his name right now, but when I was at HT, he used to say, "My mother is God. I don't believe in God."
I know who you're talking about.
And
I was challenged sometimes too.
yes.
All right.
I wasn't ready for that challenge, and that started me on a course of I knew I didn't believe like he believed, but I didn't even want to learn.
Okay.
Right? So I dropped that class. And me dropping those classes kind of set me on a trajectory where I dropped some other classes. But I watched other people that continued in that class, and they had totally changed their belief system.
Okay.
And they were walking around saying, "My mama is God."
Okay. So it was an experience in that particular situation.
Mm-hmm.
That was not positive. So that was not the best learning experience for you at that time.
At that time, no, I wasn't.
Especially where you were in terms of your faith.
Yes, sir. I wasn't mature enough to handle uncomfortable conversations from that aspect.
But something was there because I became a faithful customer, I think, even at Kings and Queens, right?
Yes,
sir. I think there was one day I came in and you shared that you were about to make a move.
Yes, sir.
But it wasn't going to be a move close by.
Yes.
So can you share with us what that move was and what happened?
Well, around that time in my life, I was really I was doing the same things over and over again.
What do you mean?
BC, before Christ, I was doing a lot of smoking. I was doing a lot of drinking. I was doing a lot of just fraternizing and chasing women and doing everything a teenager was doing in those times.
You know what? Everybody told me, Rev, you just don't know. They be nice when they're in front of me. Were you one of those persons who's been nice in front of me, and then when you got off in front of me, you were one of those persons that was, Rev, you just don't know.
I believe I was. I did a lot of those things, but I always knew how to play the role and stay mannerable in front of my elders. And
that says something. And I think that I believe that God has given me a spirit of discernment. And I believe that even for some young folks, I hear some talk about how bad they were.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at them and say, okay, it really wasn't that bad.
Right.
And your heart has always been right and good.
Right. Yeah, I always try to do the right things, and I always hung out with a lot of people doing the wrong things, but I would try to be the voice of reason sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I can look back now and say it was God telling me when to pull back before danger came. I could always see things kind of before they happen, just lining up on certain things. When I used to do all kinds of stuff I had no business doing, but it was something inside of me that would always pull me back.
Okay.
When other people would go ahead and go further and wind up with other consequences.
So let me say intuition, Spirit of God, something there by some name.
Yes.
That you would
praying a mother and grandmother. And,
that always works. That helps anyway,
yes,
right?
Sir. Yes, sir.
So where did you end up in that process of I'm going to use the term, in the process of growing, in the process of experiencing life, mm-hmm. right? And I think that happens so often. We're young, especially if we come from homes mm-hmm. where we were churched on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, yeah. Sunday about 5 times a day.
Yes.
Somewhere there is that point where we say, I'm saturated, and right now I want to pull back and see what life is, right? Mm-hmm. But in the process, did you stray? Did you fall in line? And I'm asking a question, I'm trying to lead, because I know I started making treks to a little town called Lockhart.
Lockhart, okay. So you wanna go with what got me from HT to Lockhart?
Well, what got you from Kings and Queens to Lockhart, right? What got you from Kings and Queens?
What got me from Kings and Queens? What got me from Kings and Queens, I was at a point in time, God was already beginning to deal with me. I just got tired of the same routine of waking up, smoking, going to work high, and doing a lot of those things. Cutting hair, still having a good time, but eventually it just got to the point it has to be more to life than this. I was talking to my girlfriend, who's now my wife of 25 years, 26 years.
God, all right.
But at the time, she said, "Man, I know what you're looking for. You looking for God."
Okay.
And I said, "Yeah." And while we talking, I'm sitting there smoking some weed and just thinking about the conversation. And at that time, I was staying off Sweeney Circle, Manor Road, and there was a church on 51st Street called Promised Land.
Ah, okay.
And they were having a building dedication to the new.
The edifice back then was big.
Yes, sir.
Too.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So they had a guest speaker come in, and I went, and I didn't know who the minister was, but that night I remember what they preached, and they were preaching about Samuel, and God is calling you, and it did something to me, and the altar call came, and I got up and just began to walk to the front. And I wound up giving my life to the Lord that night. And I looked over at my girlfriend, and she was at the altar too, rededicating her life. So that set forth the chain of events. And her mother and her father, which was my father-in-law, they were doing ministry in Lockhart, Texas.
Okay.
And I didn't wind up staying in Promised Land, but we decided to go down there and just help with ministry and help build. So that's kind of what got the ball rolling from Kings and Queens to Anointed Hands Barbershop. And when I got saved and would go back to work, some of the stuff that I was entertaining, laughing at, partaking in, it began to kind of vex me in my spirit a little bit.
Okay.
So it wasn't the same when I went back after I had given my life. The night I gave my life, all the weed I had, all the drink, all my old screw tapes, my DJ Screw. Y'all know about DJ Screw? You know. Anyway, man, I took all that stuff. I flushed my weed down the toilet. I poured out my liquor, and I threw all my screw tapes in the trash. Because I wanted to make a drastic change to where I wanted to separate myself. And I just began, when I would get off work, my conversation during work was all about, I got saved. I read the Bible. I don't want to do those things anymore. And I began to tell everybody, and it began to alienate me also. Because I was saying, hey man, I got saved, bro. Man, I don't even smoke weed no more. I don't drink no more. Man, I don't want to do none of this stuff no more. And everybody looking at me like, yeah, all right, cool, we gonna holler at you. And so I found myself in a place of almost isolation, but I was getting more dug into having time with God on a one-on-one basis, reading the word every night for hours until I would go to sleep. So doing that over a period of time, I began to have dreams. Some people believe it and some people don't. But I saw myself in a barbershop with a wine-colored floor, a red floor with some old doors. I'm describing the old shop.
Okay.
I saw that months before. And we eventually moved, got to Lockhart. Now that was just a dream. Didn't have any context for it or anything. but I had already knew. I said, man, I want to have a barbershop, and I already have a name for it. I want to name it Anointed Hands. That's all I knew. And
so by the time I talked to you, and you told me you were going, I guess you had, by that time you knew you were going to, because you told me that I'm opening up a barbershop
right,
in Lockhart.
right.
Right. So by that time you had come to that decision. The vision
Right.
was made clear, and so you then made that move and opened the barbershop.
Yes, sir. It's a little more in between that.
Okay.
I was really just in the Word, and I said, man, I'm a apply God at His Word, and I've been reading about fasting.
Okay.
And I said, Lord, I'm a fast. I need to know where the barbershop is going to be in Lockhart. I went on a 3-day fast. After that fast, nothing changed.
Okay.
And I was riding around downtown and happened to see my mother-in-law standing outside with a realtor. And she kind of waved me down. Said, hey, I want you to meet my son-in-law. This is my son-in-law. My son-in-law. She said, he's not an in-law, he an in-love. He an in-love.
All right.
So, and she said, he's a barber. He wants to open up a barbershop. He's telling the lady. He say, you a barber and you want to open up a shop? I have a vacant building right next door to me. And the rest was history. I filled out the application. My mother-in-law had already had favor. They already had relationship. So they pushed everything through. And we just went from there. All I had when I started was probably $400 and some clippers. And God began to move. A friend of mine, they were closing their shop, so they were selling all their mirrors for $25. So I was getting you remember the big mirrors I used to have that would cover the wall? They sold me 4 or 5 of them, $25 a piece. And
so God just
began to open up.
Open the doors. I mean, He gave the vision.
Yes, sir.
Not only did He give you the vision because you were faithful.
Yes.
He just opened doors.
He gave me the vision.
Unexpectedly.
But then began to set provision.
Okay.
And that was one thing. Once I began to move, I was scared, shaking in my boots. And my mother said, faith without works is dead. You've been in here praying all this time. Now it's time to move. Go down there to that city and go talk to who you need to talk to. And the rest is history.
Okay. There was something different about your barbershop.
Okay.
What was that difference?
One difference was we didn't excuse me. There was no profanity.
Okay.
I played gospel music. Some of my older clients hit me up on Facebook, or they call me sometime and say, man, you know, I still listen to Fred Hammond because of you. And so Fred, that's all I had. I had a little CD player and I had one CD, and that was Fred Hammond, Pages of Life. And I used to play that thing 24/7.
But now, what was fascinating for me, and what I said was you cornered the market, right? You're in Lockhart.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, we were 20 when you started. By the time you got to Lockhart, you were probably about 22, 21, 22, 21,
I just got married.
Okay. Your clients were the high school kids, right?
Junior high school. I mean, and I come down here. I got an appointment when you moved to Lockhart, right? Because I was driving. Yes, sir.
I was driving all the way from Austin.
Yes,
to Lockhart to get my hair cut. But your shop could be filled with young folk. and as I talked, they were coming not only Lockhart, but some of the little smaller towns around. It was like you cornered the market in that area. What made that possible? What was attractive? I mean, was it your youth? Was it more than that? In light of the fact that they couldn't play any kind of music in your shop, they couldn't come in your shop talking any kind of way. So what was it about your shop that attracted all these kids from Lockhart and surrounding area? Notwithstanding that you had some older adults come, but your market with kids.
Yes.
What was it about your shop? You were good. You had to be good. Right? I drove all the way from Austin.
Yes.
But I mean, you cornered the market, man. What's up with that?
I just think it was God. It was an open door for ministry. A lot of the kids. I should have, instead of a barbershop, I should have opened up a daycare or a youth facility. Because back then I would have a 6-7 hour wait sometimes on weekends especially. So we were in there telling jokes, cracking jokes, having a good time, still keeping it family. And every Saturday I would feed the kids.
Wow, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yes, I would buy 3 or 4 pizzas and just do that every weekend, blessing the kids. And some of the kids that I don't know all of the family situations, but Lockhart it's a hard-working town, but they had a lot of dysfunctional relationships that the kids had to grow up in. So it was more of a safe haven in many cases also for a lot of at-risk youth.
Okay.
Just different environments, prison gang culture, certain things like that. But we loved on the kids. Everybody was family. I still have relationships with a lot of the kids. Not everybody in Lockhart was like that, but I have a strong relationship with a lot of the Lockhart community because I treated everyone like family, and they treat me like family even to this day.
Okay. I believe that sometimes we miss it. We talk about faith in our faith journey because we get caught up in wanting to do the right thing, right? Wanting when the right thing becomes a matter of relationships, how we treat others, right? So you had youth, and you know, we can sometimes give our young folk a hard time, especially our black and brown youth, right?
Yes.
They found a place, and they found a place where they could feel the love, and I'm going to say where they could feel the love of God, right?
Yes.
I believe God works through human personalities. So one, would you say that what you had was in essence a ministry, and two, as those kids came in, because some days as I sat and waited my turn, if it was on one of those days when something's going on and it's the kids in abundance wanting to get their haircuts,
right.
And sometimes the conversation was it wasn't overbearing, it wasn't scolding, but it was real conversation about what's happening in life and maybe what you might need to do. So were you giving advice? Were you sort of counselor? Were you minister? What's up with that?
You know what's funny? I believe that was something that has always been on me as a gifting that I have, just being able to communicate effectively with the younger generation and even some of our generation, knowing different angles to enter a conversation.
Okay.
Without being offensive. Sometimes you still gonna be offensive, but a lot of those times I had already purposed, God, what's a way I can begin to learn how to minister to these, so I can begin to invite people to church and turn people towards you, because I wanted them to experience the love of God in the shop, but also be able to direct them to a place if need be. And like I said, we were down there to help build up the ministry of my father-in-law and my mother-in-law. So some of those kids came through the church and became members of the church, and had some life-changing events happen for them. Some of them are now preachers, and some of them are now barbers.
Wow. So you had an impact.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Came a point where we parted ways. I had to discover one day, that drive to Lockhart is just a bit far sometimes, right? You were absolutely wonderful. You understood, and in fact, you recommended me to the barber that I now have, and I've had since I left you, right?
Yes, sir.
Since that time, you have moved locations again.
Yes, sir.
You are now in Bastrop. That's where we are now. We are presently at Anointed Hands.
Yes.
Same name has not changed. We are at Anointed Hands in Bastrop, Texas. Wonderful shop, and I think you probably had 4 to 6 chairs in Lockhart, maybe.
Probably had. Let me see. 1, 2, 3. About 5 of us.
About 5 of you. Your shop is bigger here. You have expanded what you do. I had a situation, right, and I needed a haircut, and my barber could not do it, and I picked up the phone and called her, right?
Yes.
And on that day, what I saw, there was still a lot of young folk around. I mentioned 3 things. One, I think it's a matter of diversity of offerings. I don't know what you offer in the shop now. Your chairs, you definitely, they were all males in Lockhart. I've seen you have some female barbers at this site. What's different about this site, and what is it that, I guess, almost some 25 years later, that you still have a connection with young folk, and young folk are still coming to your shop?
I'd say it's just growth, development, maturity, but I'd have to always give anytime anyone walks through the doors, I have to give that credit to God, because even throughout my life, there were many times I wanted to quit and walk away, and the Lord would always send somebody to encourage me. When I be ready to shut it down, I remember one time when I was in Lockhart, life, going through life is lifing, and I was ready to shut it down, walk away, and one of my clients said, "Man, I don't know what I would do if we couldn't come up to the shop and just hang out," because he was going through his own stuff in his own environment, home, whatever it may have been. I didn't even ask because I was so broken at that time. I just had to say, God, I thank you. So God would always send encouraging words in my time of need. But back to why has He graced me to always be around you? I believe that's part of my calling, is to try to impact the next generation, so they don't make the same mistakes or more detrimental mistakes that are harmful to them and the ones that are following behind them. So I will always try to instill that through the conversation. Man, you got a little brother, your little sister watching everything you do. Why did I used to tell them that? Because I had a little brother, They watched everything I did. And I have sisters. So I would always try to tell that, to instill that to them, because I didn't know if they were getting that from their home environment. And you only can go as far as the knowledge that you have inside. So sometimes it was just to feed and pour water into a dry place that may not have had access to some of the stuff that I had already attained and had experienced and walked through in life. So I would, yeah.
Would it be too much to say that in this journey that you traveled on, this journey that has been kind and gracious to you, you have raised your children through the barbershop, and you have lived a good life as a barber. You knew what you wanted to be at 18.
Yes.
Right? You begin to have the visions. Is there something to be said about being faithful and walking with God? And in that, does it mean you have to be perfect, or does it mean you just need to be faithful? And is there a difference between just being faithful and not being perfect, and not being perfect?
That's two different things. Being faithful is one, but then trying to be perfect can be very damaging to your psyche, from the standpoint of you can go through life trying to please everyone.
At the same time, you can also hurt others in
Yes,
your sense of perfectionism, and that you have reached it. Is that also true?
Yes, but I think I lean more, because I still had deficiencies in myself. So I think I lean more towards the people pleasing in ministry and being faithful. I thank God for everything I've experienced, because now I can recognize it and turn around and tell people, hey, this may be a red flag, that may be a red flag, but staying faithful, that was one thing I had already made up in my mind when I gave my life to Christ. There were certain things I made up in my mind to do. I said, if I get married, I'm gonna stay married. I'm gonna raise my kids, right? Those were two paramount things. Why? Because that wasn't my story.
Okay.
That wasn't what I grew up in. I thank God for my father. I love him to death, love him to life. I thank God for my stepfather and my mother. And you know, their stories are their stories, but there were some broken places that took place along those journeys that affected me.
Okay.
Right? So growing up, I was always searching for another fatherly figure.
Okay.
Coming up. Yes, I still wanted to do those things, but I still had some things inside of me that had deficits that needed to be filled or fulfilled, but not realizing that had to come through God and me spending more time in prayer. But I was still trying to make those connections in ministry aspects versus ministry aspects.
Okay.
So,
Probably wants to ask me to say ministry aspects. What do you mean?
You can get so busy being faithful that you go from Mary to Martha.
Okay.
So your mindset is more on serve the people. And then you miss that good part with God, spending time in your personal ministry with Him.
Okay, so if I were to reframe that, could I maybe, there is a time to serve.
Yes.
But there's also that time when I need to sit at His feet.
Yes.
So that I can grow.
Yes.
Is that because it's when I spend time and I can reflect on, maybe it's a servant piece, maybe it's I can reflect over my story and determine where I come from is not my destiny, right? Yeah. But it's when I'm at the feet and I'm maybe being a little bit of Mary after I've been Martha, right? That I can see, and then I can begin the process of reflecting, internalizing, and then moving.
Right.
So, can I?
I'm not getting too far off topic with this.
No, I'm going to bring us back.
Okay.
Can you be in business? Let me put it up. Can you mix business? I'm having trouble now because part of me wants to say that ministry is business, right?
Marketplace ministry.
Can you mix ministry and business?
I believe you can, because ministry is business is something you can be called to, but ministry is within you, and it's going to come out of you regardless, whether you're in a shop, at work, on your job. Some things are going to come out of you, and if you are already in tune with God and you have a servant's heart, you're constantly trying to look for somebody to minister or bless or speak what the Lord may have for somebody. It's a song I used to listen to, and I just remember that one part of the song. I can't think of the name of it right now. He said, "You may be the only Jesus that they see."
Okay.
So that has always been kind of my philosophy. Am I trying to suit everybody with the word like that? No. But I try to stay sensitive to when ministry is necessary.
Okay. I talk about you sometimes. One, just simply, you have been an inspiration for me, and one that I believe that has allowed me, I've used you to inspire students, at least to try to inspire students, right? You knew what you wanted to do. You knew that there might be something that you might need, but you knew what you wanted to do.
Yes.
And you followed that. And you allowed your faith journey to walk beside you in that. You have a wonderful shop here, and part of my interest in having you share, right? Because you're very professional and very business. You've got your waiting area over here. You know, you have little barbers in the shop.
Yes.
And however that's arranged so that business element works for you. But something happens on Sunday morning in the shop. What happens on Sunday mornings in the shop, my brother?
We have church.
Yeah, church. Tell me more about church in the barbershop on Sunday morning.
Yes, sir. We been up and rolling. I want to tell y'all. I'm gonna tell y'all the good parts. But I was looking for a building to have church because I had been praying, and I had felt the Lord was calling me to open up a ministry. And you know, you doing the cookie cutter mindset of, okay, well, I need to do this, and I need to find a spot, I need to, you know, do all of those things. And it just dropped in my spirit, you have a building. You already have a building. And most of the people I ministered to, they were right here in the shop.
All right.
You know, whether it been barbers, some of my clients, and that's where it began to develop. I was already doing the ministry. my barber chair was already the pulpit.
Okay.
So it was just an organic move and growth from there. And when God gives you the vision, he begins to set the provision. And then when I began to tell people we were opening up, my clients began to bless. Excuse me. One of my clients bought me a sound system.
Wow.
With the mics. And another brother in ministry, he brought me a keyboard and sound. Just things like that. My wife got a good deal, found some chairs for seating and all those things. So everything just began to fall in place once the announcement was made. And it's just stepping back into the purpose of God. A lot of things are shut down during COVID. Life began to life again. Had some other things going on family-wise. So we kind of slowed down on that. We have a small gathering that still meets now and still minister the word of God. But even in that process, there were still times I wanted to quit.
Mm-hmm.
There were still times I wanted to say, Lord, I don't even know what you're doing. I don't even know if I want to do this anymore. But just staying faithful to, I'm going to give this one more day. I'm going to give it one more week. I'm going to show up. It was times I was in there by myself.
Yeah.
And all I could do was pray, get in the word. But God is faithful and began to restore, bring people around, bring things back. So this entirety of the process, we've been here for 8 years now in this building. Ministry-wise, it's been 6. And we've had our ups and downs just like any other congregation of ministry. But God is faithful. He's restoring me in some areas. I thank God for you just reminding me of where I was at 18 with the confidence and the focus and the vision. Because sometimes going through life, you begin to see things different. So it's good to have a witness on where you were and how you started, so you can get back to those areas and say, if I was there then, God restored me and established me again. So I have that same vigor, vitality to go along with the wisdom that I have now.
You have it, because you certainly knew. You didn't bite your tongue, didn't stutter. And it questioned almost why I'm here, because they really can't do a whole lot. I know what I want to do. They really can't do a whole lot for me, right?
Arrogance time.
And somewhere that was not bad, right?
Yes.
Because it enabled you, with the Spirit of God, to step out in faith.
Yes.
And to move and to do. And you have not been a failure in it, right? You
Yes,
have had wonderful success. I'm thinking a couple of times I talked with you and you were on your way to barber conventions and you were showing folk how to do cuts or something, and then
Yes.
and you've been in demand in terms of showing folk how to do stylists. Would you consider yourself a hairstylist or barber?
I'm a barber.
You're a barber. Okay, but you do those things where
Yes.
you cut and show folk
How to do
your
something.
cut. Yeah.
Right. Doing the classes and all those things. And yeah, I thank God for that. I had to, being in Lockhart, away from the city, I had to challenge myself.
Okay.
And even in that, I still couldn't take any credit when I was doing the hair designs, the portraits and heads, and doing the face designs. I would always say, Lord, these your hands. You're gonna have to help me through this haircut.
Okay.
So that's how I would start all my hair, because you're going to have to help me through this, Lord. I can't do this without you.
Mm-hmm. So that's taking with you.
Yes, sir.
Wherever you go.
Yes, sir. And he blessed me to see some things, and even push the next generation that watched me.
Okay.
Because now Lockhart is known for some of the best barbers.
Is that right?
Yes.
And when you got there, you were the only one.
Yes.
I mean, literally,
Yes.
the only black one.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
so
amazing.
I see the kids now, and I'm just like, wow, and the talent level is through the roof.
Okay. We've talked a few times recently. You are about to engage in a new endeavor, and maybe it's the flip side of that. Ain't nothing they can do for me, right?
Yes, sir.
Are you having second thoughts? We've had some conversations. I want to ask that. What's up with that?
I'm talking about me getting back in school,
Yes.
enrolling in school.
Yes.
Yes.
Why not?
Why now? Well, I've raised 6 kids, and I just got 2 left at the house. The last 2.
Been busy.
Yes. And, life will throw you those curves sometimes. But again, I'd have to say it's the funniest thing. It started with some dreams I began to have.
Okay.
And I had a dream just out the blue. I was walking around on campus at HT. And then I had another dream. I was walking around back on campus. Not to be spooky or anything, but yeah, that's
And then it's indicative of God still speaks.
Yes.
God still speaks.
Yes, sir.
If we'll only avail ourselves to listen.
Yes.
And hear.
See, sometimes I'm so busy, that's the only time he's talking to me.
Okay.
Is when I'm resting. And so I began to dream, so it just kind of piqued my interest. Man, I hadn't been on campus in almost 20-something years. And just life. And then I began to think, everybody's getting older. I'm closer to 50 than I've ever been. 47 now. And I just began to look at some things. My wife is already back in school. She'll be finished in next year.
Okay.
And I began to look at some things. I said, man, I made a promise to my mother I was going to finish school. And I said I need to keep that promise.
Okay.
To go back to school. But I believe it was God's timing on this, because if it wasn't, he wouldn't have been giving me dreams about it. And then I was still dragging my feet on that. And the day I went up there to enroll was the last day for me to get in for the fall semester.
All right.
So I thank God for the opportunity. Orientation is actually tomorrow on the 20th.
Okay.
So I'm going to be looking at that tomorrow, getting all those things in order to make sure I have all the paperwork and everything together.
Okay. So this is not so much about the business, because you have a successful business. This is to fulfill.
It's about both.
Okay.
Me going to college was never really my dream per se.
Okay.
Because I was a very opinionated young man, and I thought it was a waste of time. Seeing there were 2 different schools of thoughts. I was reading stuff like what's that, Dale Carnegie and Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I was reading all those books, 15, 16, 17. And my mindset was, rich people only pay college people to maintain what they have.
All right.
That was my thought. But that can be good, but it's also good to have the education and the information to go along for yourself. And the older I get, the less you want to pay people to do something if you would have just took the time. Like when my AC went out, I wish I would have went to HVAC school instead of
I think you can save some money on that one, huh?
Could have saved some money.
Yeah.
Or like when your car breaks down, you wish you would have had some intelligence in mechanics. But so those things. But it was really, man, I come from a family of educators. My mother has her master's degree. My father's college graduate. My father, my stepfather, same thing. He has a PhD. So I grew up around educators, but the generation I came up in was more trying to be NWA gangsters and all of that type of stuff. So education wasn't as cool being that guy. So looking back, I think I kind of hindered myself in some area. And you can allow environment to dictate some things that God never had for you. And I want to, before I close my eyes, I want to leave the legacy to my grandson and my kids that I did everything I'm supposed to do and have gotten everything I'm supposed to get on this side of life.
Go get your blessing.
Amen.
Go get your blessing.
Amen.
As I reflect, and again, I talk about you often, as I look at transitions, I guess I will take fond memories with me through the years. You have been one of those that have traveled with me. You've done tremendous, man. You've had a tremendous journey. And what I have found to be the best part of that journey is that you've not done it alone. And of course you have your wife and your kids, but most importantly, you've done it with God.
Amen.
You've done it with God. Not perfection. When I come to the barbershop through the years, I don't think I've ever been preached to. I don't think, we have conversations and we can go there, those
Yes.
God's conversations.
Yes.
But in terms of preaching and the other conversations that we engage in, and I'm a believer that sometimes we can run folk off with our, I don't want to say God part, but every other word is
God.
right. But you know that He's with you. You know He's in you. You know He's with you. And as you engage with young folk, you engage them in a way that your faith in does not run them off.
Yes.
But it tracks. That's been amazing, just to witness, right? And then just impressed with the barber and the church, the barber and the church. That has been something that has coexisted, and that you've not had to make a choice for one over the other, but they've coexisted, and they've coexisted in a very healthy way.
Yes.
That we can live life, taking God with us in every aspect. I mean, if it really is, right? We don't lay Him down over here because it's not Sunday,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Or it's not a church event. So when we leave Him here, and when we go to work, and when we do other things, that's work.
Yes.
But you've infused the two,
Yes.
right? And He is very much with you. He coexists with every aspect of your being and your doing it. I think that's impressive. I think it's impressive. I think it's a witness. As you said, your dreams and God speaks in a variety of ways, right?
Yes.
You've got to be in tune enough to know when and how He's speaking to you.
Yes.
But to know that in 2024, God is still speaking. So I've always been impressed with this, and I thank you for this time today. I thank you for this moment, for giving of yourself. And what's up with that, as we've shared this conversation, I think your faithfulness, your engagement with youth primarily, right? They go through so much and they need somebody who can reach them, who can love on them, who can get them in the right direction, and who can instill even just a little bit of God in it, right?
Yes,
That as they grow, and what you say, some of them now are barbers, they're ministers, they're all of that, right? So I applaud you. I thank you for sharing the story, and I pray that it's a message that lets us know God still speaks, and He's not somebody out there.
Yes.
He's somebody in here, and everything that I do, He does with me.
Yes.
So I thank you, man. I thank you.
Well, thank you. And as you can tell, I still got the gift on the wall that you gave me many years ago.
Is that right?
That's it. When you got framed for the
Wow. All right.
picture of the old barbershop.
All right. Bless you, man. You forgot something. I forgot I did that. I praise God for you, man. And if I were going to ask the question, what's up with that? I think in this conversation, I'd say, that's what's up.
That's what's up.
That's what's up.
That's what's
Right?
up.
So thank you for your time, and I'm going to say thank you all for joining us today. Pray that there has been something said on this day that has spoken to you. I'm going to ask that you join us as we make our next drop, and that you will come and share with us as we, again, engage in those things, spiritual, religious, for our own growth and success as we look at things. And it's okay to ask, what's up with that?
Amen.
God bless you until next time.
God bless.